Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. We have this week with us t.c.aeelah. She lives in Portugal, is a woman who is a writer. She's an Isness facilitator, among many things, and you will know what that means once we are deep into the conversation. We talked and explored together why it's so important to breathe and how to do it in a very conscious way. And also, we explore the higher self and what it means today, as well as this world of polarities and the meaning of living between those two polarities in that space right there. So enjoy the conversation. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button because it will help us a lot in creating all together precisely the world we want to live in. Enjoy. I want to start with you with the way I met you. I met you through a higher self expo that it was happening online on YouTube. At least is where I saw it. The connection was Geraldine Orozco because of her. I knew about was going on. So let's start right there. How would you talk about what higher self means today?
Well, higher self. Actually, first of all, I'd like to invite anyone listening to remove the idea that higher has any sort of hierarchy to it, because in cosmic terms, this hierarchy does not exist within us. So there is no such thing as some part that is better than any other part. What there is are different facets experiencing different ways of whatever it is that exists in our immediate perception or in our expanded perception. So going back to the question, what is higher self? It is the part of us which is not a part, which is whole, and therefore can see 360 degrees around everything and anything that we have ever been, said, or done at any time, anywhere. Basically, I would wrap the concept of higher self into that all-knowing, omnipresent and omnipotent part, which is whole, which is not a part, that is always aware. So and we are that, but we are just having a local experience through physicality that requires us to somehow disconnect a bit for a while, for a period of time which is not defined. We have to somehow disconnect from that knowingness that we are that, having a facet of it, of a possible experience, so that we can have that experience. Because if we remain in our all-knowingness, then there's no purpose to certain experiences. They have no possibility of happening. So actually, the way to take possibility beyond itself, to create infinite possibilities, is incredibly to limit perception. And only through limiting our perception have we been able to experience such an extent of possibilities as that which we have experienced so far, not only as humanity, but I mean in the whole universe, in the whole cosmic ocean of everything. So it's interesting that we might have chosen to, through limitation, through
Contraction, the
a
moment that we
contracted,
contract.
to a contracted perception of who we are, from that take out so much richness that would not be possible without that contraction.
Mhm. So would you say then for you, this higher self, with everything that you just said, how do would that be your experience, isness, whatever you want to call it, of God, of what
Yeah,
isness
I
is
would
equal
say.
to God?
Yeah, I would
Okay,
say so. If we put it in other terms, as because the word God is so charged, I usually
I know.
use this expression that we are God also. I am God also, you are God also, and every single one and every single thing is God also, happening in different forms and different perceptions. But so if we put it in the term of the source where everything came to be something,
Uh-huh. From
so the
nothing.
higher, yeah, from nothing, exactly, which was all knowing and completely aware, but had no perception of experience itself, of experiencing itself
Uh-huh.
as something. Then the higher self is that facet of each one, which is not each one, but part of that whole source that was,
Mhm.
and will never be the same as it was. So we cannot go back to that ever again. That's the whole purpose.
Mhm.
It was not to remain static, it was to expand beyond all that was known and has ever been known, and constantly so. So the higher self is that part that has never forgotten to be source, to
Mhm.
be all
This is
and
great
nothing.
because this remind me to a story that I always tell, because it was such an impact. It has such an impact in my life, and I read it on Ken Wilber. Are you aware of Ken Wilber? Ken
Yes.
Wilber, yeah, is a um, philosopher that kind of like create the framework for integral spiritual, well, integral institute, integral life, integral theory, right? And he, in one of his book, told a very beautiful story in order to understand just what you just said, even from another perspective, and make it maybe a little more mysterious for all of us. He said that God was playing chess with himself, right? And every day. So he was playing chess. And one day he realized that because he was putting himself in front to play with himself, he knew exactly, right? When the
What
other
was going to
part of
happen?
himself was going to do. So it became extremely boring to play chess with yourself. So he decided that he was going to create then himself in front of him, but he will forget that he was himself in order to
So fantastic.
experience a very juicy chess match. So that was very interesting when I remember. So let's bring this the conversation, because I think it is a good point to start, just to set up where we at, no, at this point. And because this is completely related with your isness, right, that you talk about,
Yes,
and that
isness.
you actually are a mentor, and you facilitate a mentoring how to access or to have the experience of business. Correct? Am I
Mhm.
correct? Mhm.
Exactly.
Tell me more.
Exactly.
Talk to me
So
about that.
what I when people ask me, so what is it that you do? So I facilitate, I provide a safe space for the reunion of human and divine. And basically, what is that? That is exactly providing the space where there is no need to judge, to avoid, to reject, to be angry at, to be fearful of, etc. All of those things that create separation and that still have us in that experience of not being God as well, God also. So creating that space that is silent and still, where it is finally safe to realize, oh, wait a minute, I am not just a small human self who is powerless and hopeless. Actually, I am much more. I am something else. And then from there, from that, it's something that one experiences really, because we can, we can talk about it a lot and
Mhm.
read about it and write about it and so on. But the experience itself is when someone really touches that, even if it's for a fleeting second, that is a moment of awakening. That is a moment of remembrance. And it leaves an imprint that never goes away.
Mhm.
Once someone has touched that point, which is what I call the core, so within the core, the exact center of our universe, because we are, each one of us is the center of the universe, because we are all that thing, which is source, experiencing itself in different facets. So that core, once one just falls into it, even if it's for a few moments, there is this release, this relief, this sense of, oh, I am free. Actually, this prison I believe to be in is just an illusion.
Mhm.
And from there on, the experience of compassion, of really being able to accept every single experience, absolutely everything about ourselves, about what we've been, said, and done, and what we are right now, it just starts falling into place and coming back together and coming like pieces of a jigsaw, gradually coming closer and closer, creating some sort of something that starts making sense, that starts becoming more and more tangible. And so as that starts growing and growing and growing from the core more and more, there's a moment where that is finally more than that which is not,
Mhm.
than the
Because it's a
space of not
more,
remembering.
it is a more that is not more because it's more. It's more
Yes,
because, in a way, you are in a
different
different
state.
space. Exactly, it's a different
Yes,
space that it
yes.
feels that. That one I want to bring again the hierarchy, right? Because I think there's healthy hierarchies that happens in our bodies, right? Like the cell,
Mm.
like the atom, then the cell,
Mm-hmm.
then the organism, just to put. So there are
Yes,
different hierarchies, but they are holons. They are, as you were saying, they are complete in itself, right? So it is
yes.
not that one is on top of the other.
There,
It is they're just there.
exactly.
So,
And they are all one and the same thing happening in different formats.
uh-huh. Yeah, which makes life amazingly mysterious because I don't know you, but these days more than ever, I feel that I am okay knowing that I will never know the real meaning of life, the real meaning of anything, right? Actually, there's a mystery that is always going to be there because we are constantly reaching different levels of awareness. And the moment that we reach a new level of awareness, there's a million of possibilities that unfold in precisely that moment.
Yeah, for me, the freedom has really been one of the greatest discoveries that, oh, I don't know, and I don't need to know. The not needing to know
Mhm.
is for me an immense freedom,
Yeah.
because only when I managed to let go of controlling, of even controlling knowing, so
Mhm.
being in control of what I know or what I think I know, um, once I released that, then the wisdom comes through. The thing and the amazing thing is that it comes through in the moment, for that moment, and then it just
Passes.
passes by.
Mhm.
And then it will be there again, whatever, in whatever form is appropriate, in whichever moment it is necessary. but not because I know it. I have no idea at all. And not having to have an idea about things is such a freedom. It's so
Liberation.
simple. It makes things simple. So I agree totally with what you're sharing, that not having to know is really you know, it's no longer searching, no longer having to find something,
Mm-hmm.
because once you fall into it, there's nothing else to do. There is really nowhere else to be.
Yeah. 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 And yet you are complete, or you are I have no words for how you feel when you feel that way,
Yes,
right? It is
yes,
an isness, as you were saying, is.
yeah. And the amazing thing is that you are complete, there's nothing else, and yet
Mhm.
you continue discovering
Yeah.
so many new expressions of that.
Yeah.
So it is not boring.
Yeah.
It is not something, now there's nothing else to discover or whatever. No, it's the contrary. It's a continuous new now.
Mhm. Talk to me a little bit more, because you were saying that it is a choice, right? It is a choice. Um, the way we start looking at life, the way we decide to look at life, or at our small experience, I would say. So, but yet, feeling all those things, whether it's frustration, whether it's stress, whether it's anger, whether whatever, love and happiness, and they are part and parcel of what life is about. It is not um, going away from these emotions. What actually, it is not about suppressing those emotions and living from another place, because you are only putting it under the rug in a way. So tell me more about how we integrate this. How do we work with this? How do you
Mm.
work with your clients with this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, exactly. Actually the opposite thing to do, opposite, is to embrace all of it, right? Because if there is even one piece of ourselves that is out there, that is unloved or unaccepted or unacceptable,
Mhm.
just that piece will make a whole lot of a difference. Because just like each one of us is source experiencing itself, if there are parts of us that are separate, those parts are as relevant as the whole self.
Mhm.
So it's not like, oh, that's not important. I'm just going to go on with my life and forget about that experience that hurts me if I think about it, or forget about that moment. I don't want to look at it anymore. I'll just pretend it never happened. That simply does not work. And for sure, everyone has this experience that if you try and simply put things into drawers and closets, sooner or later, they will jump out and say, "Hey, I'm here. Hello, can you see me?" And that, of course, is then it becomes louder and louder,
Mhm.
noisier and noisier, the more conscious one becomes. What I find happens with everyone is that once we tap into that space where there is this stillness, this peace, this compassionate, all pervading love, once we tap into that, that's when the noise really begins. Because that is when all of the shadow self, so all of that which is in the shadow, which is not
Mhm.
seen, which is not acknowledged, sees an opportunity to finally
Be
not be
seen.
necessary anymore. So to finally be received, to finally be accepted, to finally have a place in this wholeness that we are. So then things will start happening, and there will be people and situations and so on that will bring directly into our face whatever it is that is there to be acknowledged. And so if we, for instance, get into an interaction with someone else that brings up a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, then so what does one do? What does one do? Do we go and get a gun and kill that person?
Mhm.
Or do we stop and realize, wait a minute, if this is creating so much of a storm inside of me, then the storm is here and not out there. So I can choose to step back, to stop that interaction, and to take my time to dive inside and realize what is it in me that is bringing about this experience for me to see. Because really, and this is also an essential thing, there are no others. There are a myriad of perceptions of others,
Mhm.
because the others that are in my life are different from the others in your life and in any single person's life. For instance, the example that one person, like I could have one person in my life that I really don't like interacting with, and you could be interacting with that very same person in your life, and you could be very, very into that person. You could really love that person. And so it's the same person, but
Mhm.
your perception and experience of that person is very different from mine. So what changes? Is it the person or is it me?
There you go.
There you are. So it is always our choice. And so now let's imagine, yes, I did feel angry or whatever. And am I going to now judge myself that I am a bad person because I felt angry and so on? And then go into guilt and go into shame and all of these things? Or am I finally going to say, okay, wait a minute. Now it's my golden opportunity, now that I have felt that anger, to go inside and see, where is it coming from? Who is angry? Generally, it will be a child that is angry.
Normally.
Normally, it will be. And why is this child angry? That child is not angry at that other person, for sure. It is always angry at me
Mhm.
because I am not listening to that child. I have never listened to it. I do not pay attention, etc., etc. So that child will start saying what it has to say and feel sad and feel lonely and all of these things. So these things are what keep us living the illusion of separation, so living the forgetfulness, until we choose to live something else. And it does not mean that the forgetfulness was wrong or something that should not have existed. And this is a key point here, because when people start awakening, many times they tend to go into judgment of themselves as unworthy or unacceptable, and then want to be all light. And then it's all love and light. And it isn't. And it isn't. Actually, it is in our shadow self that resides the greatest power, because that's where all of our creativity that was repressed, all of our adventurousness, all of our rebelliousness, all of our absolute craziness that is capable of the new, of the innovative, of something that has never been done. It's there. It's in the shadow self.
Yeah, it's the gift. The gift and the key is right there.
So how do we bring them back together? through staying in that space. So I use what I call the compassionate breath, but it's basically just coming into awareness,
Mm-hmm.
just staying present. And from that space of presence, not having to go into light or dark, not having to take sides, coming into a neutral space where there is no better and worse, where there simply is all that we have ever been or done, and there is space to receive it back. And whenever we are capable of integrating, and integrating basically
Mm-hmm.
is there's something okay, integrating basically is just allowing that which was not accepted to now be accepted and embraced and let go of and acknowledged as having been of value. The only reason why unworthiness persists is because there is a lack of acknowledgement of the value that every single part that has been a part has had in our experience. No part has been irrelevant or unnecessary. Otherwise, it wouldn't have existed. It wouldn't have been created by us. Because
Mm-hmm.
if we are source, God also, we would not create what we don't need to create. So at a specific moment, we create something because we need it in that moment. Then, when we recognize its value, and this is where gratitude comes into play, and gratefully receive that part back home so that it no longer needs to be a part, then the, how can I say, the magical elixir is released and we realize the gift.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what this part of me means. Wow, that's where my joy was.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, for instance, joy is contained in a very sad child.
It always is there,
Not
right?
exactly, that could not express that joy, and so then had to pretend the game of being sad because that was safer than being joyous. And so it's really coming to peace with whatever it is or was that we have said, been, and done, or anyone else, because that other person is me too.
Mm-hmm. Tanya, you are talking in the way you talk, the way you carry yourself. And we were talking before about these real, when you have this realization of the isness, when you have been, I'm imagining that in order to get to that point, and also to understand what you are just trying to say about embracing those little parts of ourselves that we can dispossess in a way, and we kind of like we need to embrace it and bring it home. I'm guessing that you have had some kind of awakening at some point. When that happened, how did it happen? Tell us a little bit more about that story.
Well, so I could say the awakening for me happened in phases. And
Mhm.
I do
Obviously.
see it happens in phases for everyone, really. Of course, then the phases are different for everyone. My first awakening was when my granddad passed away. And at that time, I was a workaholic and stressaholic and everything else, because I grew up to believe that to be successful in life, you have to make an effort and you have to be excellent, and everyone has to see that excellence. And so it has to be very easily provable that you are the best. And so
Mhm.
I just went about being the best, and I was in many areas of my life, but I never saw myself as that. I always felt I wasn't good enough, though I was always being the best at this, the best at that, and so that no one could come and sort of point their fingers or anything. So I was always in effort mode. And my granddad, he was like that. And when he passed away, I was 28, 27.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it hit me, wait a minute. So he had a heart attack, and he was my father figure, because my father wasn't very present in my life, so my granddad was. And at that time, that was a real shakeup. Like, what? Wait a minute. What is my life for? Am I going to reach a point where I also go away just all of a sudden with a heart attack because I've been too hard on myself, because it's just been too much of an effort? Then a year later, I got pregnant from my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was second awakening call. And when I got pregnant of her, I was made to stop. I had to stop when I discovered I was pregnant, because I was actually unaware that I was pregnant. And so I was losing blood, and I had to stop for 2 weeks, which for me was crazy. I was a fitness instructor. I worked 80 hours a week. I taught, I don't know, 15, 20 hours of gym, of exercise, fitness activities. And I did every single class and everything, whatever. And I was made to stop. And in those 2 weeks that I had to stop, then it dawned on me, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Who am I? Why am I in this relationship? What is my life all about? This had
Mm-hmm.
happened already in my teenage years, but now, of course, older. I was like, oh, now I can't put this off anymore. It's about time. So a year later, I got divorced. I realized that the relationship was just something that I had put in there, but was not I realized I had never loved. I realized I had never loved. That was a big wake up call. It was a shock to me. I'm with this person and I have no idea what love is. So from then on, years later, all of a sudden I started meditating, and then from then on I went into Reiki, and then magnified healing and many other healing modalities. I was very, very disciplined. I did every single practice every single day,
Well,
and
with
no
your
one.
background, of being the best and everything, you are going to be the best in getting enlightened.
There you are. And I was like, for me, I can tell you, it was like training to be an Olympic athlete. If you can imagine, like, from the moment I tapped into that space, that, whoa, this is it. This is it. There's no questions asked. This is what I'm going for. Okay, so how do we do this? So then I was, it was crazy. I look back now at the amount of modalities I learned in a short space of time. It was crazy. And of course, I had a big hiding with all of those practices, because as when we start these practices, of course, everything then has to balance out. And I was doing it all at once. So sort of all of my karma hit me like a truck. And I was like, now what? Now what do I do? But I just, kept on. No, but I know this is possible. I know that I am going to be living what I feel is possible. So I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Let's just go on and on. And then the mountain just got bigger and bigger.
Obviously.
The
Mm-hmm.
more I practiced, the more I discovered that I had to integrate. And on the day I did my Reiki master degree, I started a relationship with my son's father, who was, I can say, my master in the shadow self. So that relationship brought to me my shadow in all of its fantastic power,
Mm-hmm.
that I had to stop and look and see myself in so many facets and realize, oh, that's me, and that's me too, and those words are mine, and that is me behaving that way, and that And so as I came back with all of these things, integrating every single day, integrating, it became tiring sometimes, I must admit. Sometimes my body felt very challenged, obviously, because we're talking about here DNA reconstruction or readjustment, continuous DNA readjustment. We're talking about letting go of thousands of over 1,000 of lifetimes of habits, patterns, etc., etc. We're talking about, in this lifetime I had many illnesses during my lifetime, healing every single one of them, not through medication, through transformation, every single one of them. So it was, there were times I was in bed for a day or two or three or a week because I couldn't move with the power of what was happening in my body, the transformation at a cellular level. But I just kept on and on and on and on. And what was the turning points were, so my life of course became a huge challenge, obviously, that it had to.
It's part of the contract.
Yeah, it was a huge challenge all along, but then I became aware of the huge challenge it was. Basically, that's it. And so my soul, my essence, because I started listening within, listening to that knowingness, basically, that sometimes is a voice, sometimes is just a feeling. Most of the times it's more of a feeling than a voice itself. It's a knowingness. And started listening and feeling and sensing, and the constant invitation was, whenever I felt frustrated, overwhelmed, how am I going to get out of this? I created 250,000 euros of debt with loans and all sorts of stuff. Well, whatever. Anyway, I was like, how am I going to get myself out of this relationship that is so painful, out of this debt, out of this huge confusion that is my life at the moment? So the more I dived within and developed, the harder my life became, interestingly
Well,
enough.
in a way, because we suffer more, but we also have more tools.
Yes, exactly. So it was like, let's pluck all of the weeds out, and I'm not leaving any weeds for afterwards. And so the invitation and the question was always, okay, are you going to fight against or cooperate with? And so I would stop and say, okay, I choose to cooperate with. Because, I realized my warrior self was, oh my God, amazingly powerful. My warrior self was all over the place, taking care of
Because we
everything.
also can be, we have been conditioned to be the warrior, right? Especially if you're a woman.
Exactly.
You are conditioned to be a warrior because otherwise you're weak,
Yes.
or otherwise you are too driven. So that is a kind of like a avatar that, a spirit
Yes.
that we have there that we need to
An
follow.
avatar is a really great way of putting it. So
Mm-hmm.
my warrior avatar was fabulous. And so I kept on choosing, and my choice became, I choose for me and for my life, ease, grace, flow, and simplicity. Ease, grace, flow, and simplicity. So whenever then I was faced with another challenge, and okay, but my choice is ease, grace, flow, and simplicity. And of course, I chose freedom. And I wasn't aware that choosing freedom meant going into every little space, every little everything that was hiding there, preventing that freedom inside, right? But as I continued choosing ease, grace, flow, and simplicity, which came with absolute trust, 100% of the time. Even when my mind was saying, this is not possible, you're not going to make it, it's, you know, you're not going to be able to have a decent conversation with this person, you're not going to be able, and I was like, no, I trust. I don't know, but I trust. That's the only thing I have. I can't do anything else because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. So I have to trust.
Well, it was your only option.
Exactly.
Or
I
you
put
go
myself
down to the
against the
hole.
wall.
You go down to the hole,
Exactly.
or you trust and
I did it in a way that I had no option. Exactly. For me, it was my best thing. The best thing I could do. Of course, at that time, I didn't think so, but now I know. And so there it just continued evolving. And then at one moment in the middle of the night, I had what I now know is a Kundalini Rising. So it just happened in bed. While I was in bed, all of a sudden this big eruption happened inside of me. And my mind just blast. So it became fully silent and I couldn't think or couldn't know anything. And but then there's this peace. But that happened because in the middle of the night, all of a sudden I felt a terror. And at that terror came forward because I had been dealing with my shadow self, and of course overcoming moment to moment, breath by breath, and looking it in the eye and saying, I am not afraid of you anymore. So then when I was half asleep, this terror came and I just let go. And I didn't need to fight. I didn't need to run away. I didn't even need to say, I'm not afraid of you. It was just, I surrender, let go.
and that is how you started to, I imagine, to
And that's how
integrate.
the explosion happened inside of me. So that explosion happened and my whole body just became, I can't really explain, but in that moment separation disappeared. I realized that there was no one thing and another thing. There was no others and me. There was no God and me. There was no feminine and masculine. There was no outside and inside. All of a sudden there was only everything and nothing, basically. And this lasted for hours. So I was crying and laughing and feeling my whole body just going through like an electric charge of immense proportion, and my mind just couldn't figure anything out because it was silent. And so then later on in the morning, when I finally managed to get out of bed, I was all wobbly because it was like, whoa, okay, so we're here now. And this absolute all-pervading peace, which has never left me from then on. This was in 2013 that this happened. So this all-pervading peace. And in that moment, I had no idea who I was. And from then on, I've never known and never wanted to know. So basically, it's
Well,
like,
basically, you were cooked. When you were cooked, you were a delicious plate that now it is there. It's completely different than what you were before.
exactly.
I mean, your life was
Having,
about getting all the ingredients for that to happen. But now that you're talking about this, I was listening to you about how you were forced to stop, right? How you were, when you had your daughter, you were forced to stop. Then how you starting to realize that you never loved really before, how all these things, those problems that you were having in life, they were accentuated. So if I listen to you with perspective, I realize that this pandemic that we have had, it has been like a boot camp for awakening in a way, right? It was like for you took a lot of years. Now it's like consciousness or the world or isness, whatever it is saying, well, I'm getting a little bit tired of this. Let me give you a way for you to have a boot camp, big retreat that you're gonna have, and it's your moment to lock down, stop, and breathe. That's my next point that I want to talk to you. How breathing becomes such a prevalent thing in order to go through the times that we are going through right now. Tell me more about it.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, before I go on with that, that breathing is exactly the thing that has been put into perspective,
Mhm.
because all of the fear has come into breathing.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Fantastic, isn't it? So, interestingly enough, breathing or the breath is really what we perceive as life. And when we are born, it's the first thing that connects us to being on earth
Mhm.
is the breath. And when we are children, if we are babies, if we are well taken care of, I mean, if we receive some sort of love or care, we will sleep openly and we will breathe openly, and our whole body breathes at the same time. There is at that moment no fear yet. So it's just that open trust that I am cared for, that I am worthy, that I am here. What a joy. So the breathing or the conscious breath, and what I call the compassionate breath, which is the same thing, is really becoming aware again of that space in us through the breath where there is that safety, that trust that I am cared for. So, but now I'm not placing that care somewhere out of me. I'm realizing that the breath cares for me every single moment because I am here breathing. And I've realized that even for people who have difficulty, any kind of difficulty with the breath, let's imagine that a person has like a real problem and they cannot breathe through the nose, because this breath is usually is not a practice, it's a way of life. But in order for it to become a way of life, it has to become a practice first. So it's just inhaling through the nose naturally and exhaling through the nose naturally. And when we inhale, we allow the body to fill. And in when I say the body, the belly, but then everything really. And when we exhale, it just recedes, but naturally, like a natural rhythm. So it's not forced breath. It is a profound breath. It is basically an allowing the breath to happen without us being in the way, like with us, without needing to control it, right? To be in control of anything. And I've noticed that really, even if a person could say, oh, I can't go and do the breathing with you because I've got a cold. Now talking about the pandemic or whatever. Or I have an issue, a problem, like a permanent problem, and I cannot breathe. No worries, because the breath really is not only happening through the nose or through the mouth or whatever, it's happening through this whole physical system. The whole body is breathing all the time. So, in that case, what I will do is invite the person to just shift the awareness to that rhythm that happens like the breath, like the waves of the ocean, really. It's a rhythm that's in the body, in the whole body, to shift into that. and just be with it. Just feel that rhythm. Just be in that rhythm. So, even releasing a belief system that the breath is just what happens when we inhale and exhale through our nose, in this case, or the mouth if a person can't breathe through the nose. Actually, you don't even need that. You could just tap into the whole body breathing, the cells breathing. Everything is breathing all the time. So it's tapping into that is breathing us into life all the time, continuously. It's just a shift of awareness. Instead of being entertained with trying to find the right way to breathe or the right way to evolve or the right way to be whatever, it's just, oh, wait a minute, I can just stay. So just stay. That would be the key. Just stay and perceive that other underlying level of awareness where there is calm, where there is stillness, where there is clarity. And even so, if a person is not, in this case, breathing deep down into the belly and aware that there is a core, a center down in the belly, a space, which is what I call a safe space. Okay, so the person is not breathing in the normal way, not feeling that. No worries, because the core is in each cell. It's everywhere in this physical body. We can tap into it anywhere. It doesn't matter. So really just releasing and removing the belief systems that limit awareness, that limit the knowingness that we are capable of being that which we already are. I mean, how could we not be capable?
Yeah, but however, it is for many people just the fact, and I'm including myself. You know, when we are in the midst of many things, getting to the moment to stop is difficult, right? When we are
It
talking
is.
about in a, like you were saying, you know, all your problems and everything came to you, but in the pandemic we kind of like concentrated that the potion, you know, the potion for us to wake up was concentrated, and yet it is even though that you stop within, how you understand life is still in a train that is still moving, that it has an inertia. When you stop a train, you don't stop the train all of a sudden. Life doesn't stop.
No, it continues moving.
All the inertia that train is until definitely it stops.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
That is the question, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't. It seems like a really strange answer, but the need to do something is really what will keep the train in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And releasing the need to do something is what will allow us to, how can I say, to switch off the buttons of the old paradigms, of the old ways of doing, long enough for us to be able to gain strength from that inner clarity to then start a new way. So we cannot start a new way, really, if we are trying to go on that new way through old patterns.
Definitely.
And those old patterns can only die off if we are no longer feeding them. So if I'm entertained trying to fix something that doesn't work anymore, what am I doing? I am using my energy to try and fix a thing that is obsolete. Okay, so the invitation is let it be, let it collapse, and be okay with it. That is the hard part.
Yeah, it's what we were talking at
letting
the
it
beginning.
collapse.
Yeah, the other day when we were talking, the need to collapse, the need to break, they need to, there's so many things that we, as I was saying yesterday with you, or the other day when we were talking before this conversation that we're having, that I was telling you about Bayo Akamolafe, right? That how can we do with everything that we know, the ancestors, the traditions, the religions, the beliefs, the disappointment, the every single part of ourselves, put it in the soil and make compost out of it.
That's the example I usually share. Exactly.
How can we
Exactly.
compost ourselves into
So
something that we don't know actually yet?
being okay with not knowing
Yeah.
is important, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. So now we've got the old paradigm here. Let's imagine there's the let's imagine a train line, right? And there's the old paradigm here. And then there's the other one, the new paradigm that I don't know what that train looks like. I don't know anything, but I feel, I sense, because we all have that sense. We all have that knowingness that, oh my God, if I really manage to jump onto that train, I know that it feels fabulous, that it feels peace, that it feels everything I've been looking for. So I know that, but I don't know what it looks like, and don't know how to jump onto the other train either, right? So if I'm on this train that is obsolete and not running properly and full of defects that are no longer repairable, because it would just mean perpetuating something that is no longer serving me, what to do? Stop the train. Stop the train. And as you said, it takes a time to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And you are in that moment in between. It's like being in a limbo.
Yeah.
And being okay with it.
Well, it's hard as hell, but nevertheless, you stay. So the
There you are.
challenge, the first
That's
challenge would be that one, to stay no matter what.
Exactly. That's it. That is, I would say that is the challenge. The challenge is it's still rolling, stuff is still happening, but you are in the middle. You're not in the other paradigm yet. You don't know how to get there either, but you're okay with that because you know it's there. And you know the other thing is there too, but you're not allowing yourself to get out of where you are here in that presence. And if you do, important, you do not go into anger with yourself, because that's where people fall over and over again, is getting angry at themselves, getting frustrated at themselves. And especially people who have been on their spiritual journey for a long time tend to get even angrier at themselves, because there's this idea that, I've done everything, I know all of this, why can't I put it into practice? And then I see this happening, why am I still doing this? And that why has to go. There's no point asking these questions.
No. Why never takes you anywhere.
Useless. It's useless. Let go of the questions. Like, why, how? Forget it. You're never going to know how. Because it's not about how. It's an allowing. So what happens really is that as you stay and allow whatever has to die off to die and to crumble and to be destroyed and to whatever, and you stay and you're firm, determined, and you stay, what happens is you start blending into the new train.
Huh.
And there's no
That's a
way
nice analogy. That is a nice analogy. Because
you're
I was
never gonna
thinking,
know how.
I was thinking like when you're ready, all of a sudden you do like and jump into it.
Yeah,
But it's nice that idea that you don't have to do any movement to get to the other train. Just
exactly. Allow
realize
it.
that you are already in the train at certain moment.
That's it, basically. Because the thing is, you have always been on the other train as well. The thing is that that knowingness was just covered up for a long time. So it takes time for us to become aware that we are already on that train anyway. So it's just a blending. It's basically like this blending with the breath. It's the same thing. It's a blending. And so how does one person shift from one paradigm to the other? You allow it. You allow it. There's no way of defining steps, like, okay, if you do this, this, and this, then it will work. Or
That is exactly also the old paradigm, that it tells you how to interact with life, with your own life, with your heart, with your thoughts, with your dream in bullet points, right? There's no such a
exactly.
thing like bullet points. Belongs to another reality that we is no longer working. That is why it's becoming that it has no effect. Even if you do bullet point by bullet point, is nothing going to happen because it's going to stay the same.
Exactly. And about the COVID and all of the pandemic thing and that, I'd like to leave an invitation here because this has been a fabulous opportunity to awaken, to shift paradigm and so on. But it has also been a great opportunity for people to take sides. And taking sides will only ever keep the sides alive. So, my invitation here is to realize, okay, so it doesn't matter here which side a person is on, pro COVID, against COVID, whatever, pro vaccines, no vaccines, whatever, doesn't matter. Here, it's irrelevant for this invitation I am bringing forth. It's like this. What I'm inviting is this, is if you could step out of both sides into the space in between where there is no story happening. So, in the space in between, there is neither one side nor the other side, and therefore, there is no fear. No fear that some virus will catch you, or no fear that you will be made to do things you don't want to do, etc., etc. Okay, neither one fear nor the other, because both sides are fear-based. Both sides are fear-based. That's the whole thing. So if that's not what we want to be experiencing, this is, again, a wonderful opportunity to shift paradigm, which is, instead of sitting on the sides, come and sit in the center where there is no story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's before the COVID story started and after it ended.
Yeah.
There is no story there. Okay, so if there is no story there, how do you choose to live your life? And from that space of how do you choose to live your life, irrespective of whatever stories are going on, now be true to that. Be true to that. And then people will say, how can I do that? Because this is happening. No, wait a minute. This is happening in that person's reality and in that person's reality and that person's, but it doesn't have to be happening in your reality, because the thing is, there are as many realities as human beings.
Yeah. And also, I think if we are looking as with the lenses of her spirituality, right? Because that's what we're doing. I feel
Exactly.
that that middle point that you are talking about, that I completely agree. For me, it is not only not being with any of those stories, is how can I allow all the stories and include them in my
To be a
reality.
part
It's
of
part
the
of
world.
my life, my moment in history in this planet. Because that's how I see it. It is, let's integrate all the stories. That is even the principles of democracy, right? It is like you're going to have a story that is different than mine, but we coexist because
That's it.
we nurture each other with our different perspectives. And I think it's a
Yes,
wonderful
and then
opportunity.
you create from there. And that's how you are going to actually realize that whatever you create is serving you. If we're always creating separation and not integration, we will be experiencing separation.
Yeah. But that unity needs to be known,
Mm,
experienced,
yes,
right?
yes.
Because that is the way that you can multiply that
Mm,
concept.
yes,
It needs to be or not even get to it. It is like to unveil that
mm,
you are already there.
yeah, yeah. So that's why the invitation. Okay, so at least step out of the stories, then embrace them.
Yeah.
Then you choose. You choose for you. You really do choose for you. And in choosing for you, because you are God also, you choose for the whole collective. Because in you choosing and actually materializing a
Mhm.
new paradigm, you are influencing the whole human collective. And this is something for each one to really, really get, is that it's not because, oh, it's just me, what difference can I make? And you're not doing it to make a difference. You're doing it for you,
Yeah,
because
and
you are God also.
this is the point that many people, because of our, this is exactly what I was talking in another of our conversations the other day, because then our the way that we have been brought up instill in us the different stories that we have lived by generation. That means, okay, now I'm feeling guilty if I said I do it for me. When we have this perspective of unity, that as you were saying before, we are at the center of universe. If you are at the center of your own universe, and everybody is the center of their own universe, and realizing that all together we are the center of the
Of the
universe,
universe.
the way life manifests around you, there's no other thing than a reflection of what is going on within your life. The struggle,
Exactly.
the doubts, the guilt, the everything is nothing other than your own struggle within. And I go back again at what you were saying, the importance of stopping and then breathing as part of breathing with the planet.
Yes, because there is no separation between me and the planet, you and the planet. We are the planet, and the planet is us. The big thing to keep really, really very at the forefront of the consciousness of humanity is that the planet does not need humans.
Yeah,
Humans do need the planet.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's realizing that actually the planet is within us.
Exactly. And whatever we do to ourselves, we are doing to the planet, and we are doing to each other. So this is why it's so simple. It really is simple to understand that it is for you. Because when you can shift into complete, absolute, and unconditional oneness and love with you, for you, and within you, you are doing this with, for every single sentient being and everything else. It's with the planet, it's with everyone, it's with everything, with every animal, with every plant, with everything. And it's you, it's just you. Because as you were saying, There is nothing else but you. And this doesn't mean what the mind thinks it means at all. It means that there is only one source, and the source is happening through each individual facet that seems to be separate, but is not. And so that's where you make the shift, is in you and with you. And that unconditionality of infinity, I would say, if one is able to collapse into that, the whole collective is embraced in that. There is no way of separating it. You cannot do it for you and not do it for the collective. It's just, there's no way to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful place to kind of like stop our conversation or stop,
Mm,
kind of like leave it there because it's exactly how we started our conversation talking about the higher self. And it's right, kind of like we made in a way a whole circle.
full circle.
However, I want to ask you, is there anything that you think it is very important you want to say that we have not addressed in our conversation?
That's a difficult question. No,
Okay, okay, that's
I
it.
don't really feel that.
But
No.
if
I
women, men who wants to connect with you, who wants to work with you,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit uh, all your different aspects because you're a coach, but you're a writer, and also you are a practitioner of Reiki. So why don't you tell us where we can reach out to you?
Okay, so I'm no longer a practitioner of Reiki because Reiki became who I am and everything else. So all of the practices just became me and I became the practices. So I stopped practicing the practices.
Well, it has its own life.
They found their way through me to me, and then I released them. I was invited to release them. That was a big challenge, but I managed. At that time it was a challenge. So one thing, one of my greatest passions is writing, as you said.
Mhm.
I've been a writer before I knew how to write. So even as a small child, I would envision what I was going to write when I started writing. So I started writing at the age of 5, but even before that, I was like wanting to. So I write about consciousness, basically. Sometimes I write stories, sometimes I write reflections. I share wisdom in my writings, and on in my blog, which is called In Passion Publications. And also I have books. I have 7 free ebooks on my website and one more coming out right now. And then I've got other books which people can purchase. So the writings are really a great part of my work that I share with the world for pure joy. I don't share it to save anyone because I'm not here to save anyone. Actually, I am here to love every single one exactly as they are. And that's all there is, really, because each one is source happening in so many different ways. So if people would like to sort of dive into their isness, to be one with their divinity, to just merge the human and divine, I do something called Isness integration, which is the work of just coming into compassion and bringing the awareness of those parts that are sometimes are very stuck and that we sometimes can't see ourselves alone because they are so afraid of showing themselves to us or something. So I don't really give people answers. I ask questions. I help people find that knowingness inside of themselves so they can really say their own answers that they were looking for, and find that space that they have already that does not need to be looked for anywhere else. And I have my compassionate breath sessions, weekly sessions. Now in August they are paused, but they will continue. And I share a series called Just Breathe. Every week I share a video in that series about living from the heart, about living from the essence, from the soul self, from the higher self, whatever we want to call it. And there, it's already over 60 videos there. So if people, for instance, would begin from number one and each day watch one, there would be already loads of openings with just that free content. I do Just Breathe Live webinar every month in Portuguese and another one in English. I have now a beautiful co-creation with my friend called Alexis Sersha. She's in Australia. And so she is also living this, like what we call the new earth and a new world from within. And we have a live sharing called Living in the Flow. So what we do is share these experiences of what it's like and what it was like and how it became so. We are absolutely enjoying it. It's so much fun. We never know what we're going to say or whatever. So it just, comes in the moment. And I have another one with my friend Louisa Munson, who is an astrologer. She calls her work Feel Good Astrology. And we share, so from her vision of astrology and my vision of the Isness point of view, and we bring that together for each month, for that moment in the month that there is a bigger challenge or a bigger opening, and that we also never know what we're going to say. So it's always in the moment, just like us two today here.
Yeah, exactly.
I have retreats. My retreats are very personalized. I only work with a maximum of 3 people, and I work with another 2 people. So basically, people are really taken care of very individually. And mainly, the point is to create silence, space of silence, where the clarity can come from. And that's it. It's very
That's a
simple.
lot. I mean, you were saying at the beginning that you were going to stop whatever. You are not stopping. You are having all these tentacles in a good way everywhere.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
I can tell that you can call passion has to do with the name of who you are. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could say my essence, the name Aeelah is the sound of my essence. Is very passionate, like passionate for existence, basically. So what is there to be than to create? Create.
Tanya, it has been a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much. I think we should
For me
have another
too.
session another day, just breathing, and maybe it would be
Good
nice.
idea.
Okay,
Good
let's
idea,
do that.
Yolanda.
I am gonna put a note here that we need to get together again for just maybe a 5-minute session of
5
breathing.
minutes is enough.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for being so
Thank
beautiful and
you.
allowing me to connect with you. It has been my
And me. Thank you for connecting, Yolanda. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
See you soon.